So I'm really new to this current run of Detective Comics, and I'll be honest, I'm kind of even a little bit dumb when it comes to DC in general. I've always been more of a Marvel fan, but I am taking the recommendations of some of the guys that I follow on social media, and they really talk about what their favorite books are. And so I've dived into this series, and just in time. This is the beginning of a new story arc, and lucky for me, this is my favorite DC villain of all time, Victor Freeze. And if you watch my channel, you might already know why I love Freeze. I probably won't talk about that today, maybe. But I'll talk about his characterization and why I love him when it comes to his character, right? So we have Peter Tomasi writing, Doug Mahnke on pencils, Jaime Mendoza doing inks, and David Barron on color. I probably butchered at least one of those names. So, as far as it goes, this art is freaking awesome. I really love it. And, I do talk more about the writing just simply because that's what I know. And so my perspective is really centered around what strikes me about all the writing for the comics that I review. And I'll be honest, I don't really know how to critically analyze art, as a critic itself. But I'll tell you right now, I know what I like, and this art is freaking awesome. All of it. The whole team is great. And right off the bat, pun intended, the very first 2 pages are just a great juxtaposition of the emotional state of both the hero and the villain, Victor and Bruce. So I really like it when writers will compare the villain and hero archetypes, and they'll show you just how similar they are. And he does it great here. And Victor, he's suffering the ongoing loss of the love of his life, being frozen in stasis, in cryogenesis. And Bruce, just recently ending a bad relationship that never should have happened. I mean, what do you think's going to happen, Bruce, honestly, if you marry Catwoman? I don't want to get into the deeper implications of Tom King here, but I really preferred that never would have happened. Would have been great. So I love this second page because there is this possible nod to William Butler Yeats, The Second Coming, which is absolutely one of my favorite pieces. He says, "The sinner doesn't hold. They crash to the ground like they'd never been together at all." And on the first page, it's as though the narrator was talking about Victor, but he was talking about Victor and Bruce there, to where all of his words really encapsulated everything that both of them were feeling. It's a simple, but it's a very powerful way to create empathy for your villain by associating his feelings with the same feelings that your hero is having. And I think that's great. If a reader doesn't feel sorry for the villain, then, I think you're kind of doing something wrong, honestly, as a writer. And this is just a fantastic way to make it happen right off the bat, And so, these first 4 or 5 pages, some people might feel like they're kind of all over the top emotionally, specifically for some like action-heavy readers. But look, I dig it. This is the beginning of an arc, and it feels right, even though this is an action-filled book, just Detective Comics in general. It feels right, to create that intro, and it captures a mood that is part of the theme, and when you do that as a writer, you set the scene for the entire thing. And, the mood is the ongoing tragedy of Freeze. That's what this arc is going to be. He'll never be able to save the woman that he loves. I love it. I love it. And these 2 pages are great. So even to delve deeper into these 2 characters and their juxtaposition here, again, show don't tell. And these 2 pages do it perfectly. They tell as well, but they show so much. So here's Bruce, and he says, all this useless beauty, Selena, at just the right height, at just the right moment, at just the right temperature, melts. And as Bruce makes a fist filled with snow falling into his hand, we immediately turn the page to Victor doing exactly the same thing and also lamenting his own loss. He says, a magic blanket of symmetry falls, Nora, a reflection of internal order, crystallization, my love, of desire, of resurrection. And now, for the details, my dear. This is great. So Victor continues to talk to Nora as if she's right there next to him. And if you've lost someone who's passed, you tend to do that, possibly for years even. And sometimes it'll feel like they're right there. And, Victor, he's perfected this nanotechnology. The story goes on, and it allows him to live outside of his suit now. So that's a pretty cool twist that they've added here. And, it also, that brings him closer to resurrecting Nora. So he's more emboldened than ever, And as his goons are out, they're collecting women is what it looks like just at first glance. And, of course, immediately I kind of got this sinking feeling reading this part, like, dude, what effed up thing is he going to have planned right now, Because he's always been a little bit creepy about this, and just like we saw multiple women, they're being kidnapped. And we find out, that if you've been following the Year of the Villain, then you know that Lex Luthor, he's been giving gifts to all of these villains that he thinks are important, Well, I guess more appropriately, the villains that he wants to get something out of, right? That's how Lex is. You always know there's a catch, and in Victor's case, he gives him a serum that he claims will be able to, quote unquote, fulfill his greatest desire, which, of course, is to bring Nora back from her cryostasis, And so Victor continues to talk to Nora as if she's there, and he tells her that he started to seek out women to put them in the exact same frozen state that she's in. Of course, to test the serum out, he's saying that he's done this on animals, and now he's began to test it on these women. And, we find out that there's already a body count that's just stacking up. You even see it in one of the panels. And, here's that question that someone could potentially ask here. What would you do to save the one you love? How far would you go? And it's a good question, and it's a question that's built inherently into Victor's character, and it's a big deal that this question could easily be dismissed offhand, but to others, it really creates a deeper sense of empathy for the villain. And, that's one of those reasons that either you like Freeze or you don't. And there's not a huge middle ground when it comes to this character, as far as I can see. And I don't know, it is what it is. Now, I do want to talk a little bit about, after Flashpoint, God, it was the New 52, I guess, and they revamped his character, and it bothered me a lot. I did not like the way that Freeze was depicted at that point in the timeline. If I'm not mistaken, they made it to where Nora wasn't someone that he even knew. It was just some woman that he came across frozen, and he began to become obsessed with her, like he's an incel or something, That was horrible. I don't even know who wrote that, but it pissed me off to no end. And that's when I stopped reading. So here we are jumping back into it. We have the past continuity back to where this is his love. This is the woman that he wanted to be with, that he was in love with more than any other. It was his love. So that's the big deal, and that's why this story means a lot to me, to readers, to everyone. You take out the most important parts of a story and no one's gonna like it, right? And who loved that in the New 52? I sure didn't. So Bruce comes across a call. He's doing deadlifts and he comes across a call. He just listens to the police scanner. That's Bruce for you. He's obsessed, and kind of like my one of my last videos, I talked a lot about Bruce's character, and this was one of my writing videos. I'm gonna leave a link down below, where I talk more about Batman, who's really Bruce, and that inner conflict that he has between his conscious and subconscious desires. So he comes across a call when he's listening to the scanner, and this woman, she's talking to the police, and she wakes up. She had a home invasion, and she has a concussion after these guys came in. And I tell you, that's all it took to start that ball rolling. The best of Batman stories, in my opinion, well, some of the best. There's some other depictions I love with Batman as well, but I love when Bruce is doing detective work, and he's unraveling the threads of mistakes that the villain makes, and truly, hey, look, we know that Batman's gonna win. We really do, but we have to let it be a struggle as a writer, if you don't have that struggle, if Batman doesn't have a really difficult time, then you don't feel like that payoff really works, so it's a big deal. In this scene here, he's talking with Harvey here, who generally Harvey doesn't really care much for Batman, and that's kind of where I want to mention this. I talk about writing a lot, just like this. Allies can't all like each other, Harvey's a detective, so of course he's a good guy, but look, conflict is a key element of drama in any kind of fiction, and I mean all the way across the board. So it would be really boring if everyone liked Batman, and it would be really silly to write a story where everyone praised him, just like it would be boring if Scott Summers and Logan always got along. The tension makes for really good storytelling, right? There has to be conflict, even with your allies. So if you're writing deep characters, make them disagree, make them fight, make them punch each other, just for the hell of it sometimes, but that brings me to this. This is, one of Freeze's henchmen. He makes a mistake, and he doesn't bring one of these women, the woman that woke up with a concussion, he doesn't bring one of those women to Freeze, and he pays the price with his life. And this is the conflict of allies as well. It's always good to show this. And it shows how serious Victor is, that not only is he willing to sacrifice all of these women's life in the most creepy way possible, but he's willing to kill his hired thugs as well, of course. So, look, hey, here's the deal. I'm not going to spoil the story's end here, but I will finish by saying this. This story is a great, solid beginning to this next arc. It's a setup issue because it's technically a number 1 of this arc, and it lets us know what we're in store for. It's not a complex read, just like the Hickman books that I'm covering. They're very complex, and it takes a lot of analysis to really delve into them. This is just a straightforward, badass Batman fighting crime book. It's what I think the standard should be for just a superhero comic in general. Where anyone picking this up, anyone, even if they don't want to think when they're reading a book, anyone picking this book up, they should really enjoy it, and they should, hell, if you don't enjoy this art, I think something's wrong with you, because this is great. The whole creative team's awesome, the writing's just awesome, and at the very end, the last page, it really does, it leaves you on a kind of somewhat of a cliffhanger where you have to get the next book. That's the bottom line. I'm gonna get the next one, and so I have a list, and it continues to grow slowly, of great books that I'm continuing to get, and I've added Detective Comics to that list now, and if you love Batman and you're not really huge into Tom King stuff, you like the old Batman style, fighting crime, doing detective work, beating up bad guys, pick up Detective Comics. This creative team will rock your socks off. So, look, hey, I talk about writing a lot, and all of my reviews, I kind of talk about what makes me like these comics. Recently, I've kind of shifted my content, and I want to be more positive when it comes to books. So, look, I'm just covering books that I enjoy at this point. I don't want to rag on anybody, really. And so, hey, look, if there's a book that you want covered and you want to drop me a line, my email, it's in my About section. Feel free to send me some hate mail or or whatever you want to say to me. Of course, I'd love for you to subscribe to my channel, hit like if you liked this video, and you are the gateway into comics.